There are no accidents in the encounters we experience. Each meeting, whether fleeting or profound, carries with it a thread of deeper meaning, woven into the tapestry of our lives. The world we see around us and the people who move through it are reflections of the inner landscape we often overlook. It is easy to believe that chance governs who crosses our path, but a closer examination reveals something more intricate and far-reaching: the law of resonance. When two souls meet, it is not random. It is the resonance of unseen energies that draws them together. Each person we encounter serves a function, whether as a mirror, a teacher, a challenge, or a guide. Sometimes the lessons are harsh, wrapped in conflict or disappointment. Other times they are wrapped in warmth, in companionship, or in love. Yet even the harshest lessons have within them the seeds of transformation, if only we are willing to look beyond appearances and into the depths from which they spring. In truth, we are meeting ourselves in every encounter. The anger we see in another may reflect our repressed rage. The admiration we feel for someone else's strength may point to a strength we have yet to claim. The betrayal we experience may uncover a betrayal we have long committed against our own truth. Nothing is outside of us. Nothing stands apart from the dance of our inner world, projected onto the stage of life. This law of resonance explains why certain people appear at certain moments. It is not because of coincidence or luck. It is because something within us calls them forth. There is a silent agreement between souls, often made long before the mind becomes aware of it, to meet and catalyze evolution. This is why relationships, both brief and enduring, often bring precisely what is necessary for growth, even if they also bring pain. The soul recognizes what the ego resists. At the core of this understanding lies the phenomenon of synchronicity. Meaningful coincidences that seem too perfect to dismiss are not accidents. They are signposts of a deeper pattern at work, a pattern that connects the inner world to the outer, the personal to the collective, the conscious to the unconscious. When we pay attention to these moments, when we dare to see them not as chance but as the language of the soul, we awaken to a different way of living, one guided not by control but by trust. Trusting in resonance requires courage. It demands that we no longer see ourselves as isolated beings, buffeted by random forces, but as active participants in a universe of profound intelligence. It requires us to own the parts of ourselves that we project onto others, to recognize that healing does not always come through comfort, but often through the dissonance that shakes us awake. Every encounter is an invitation to deeper self-knowledge, to greater compassion, and to a fuller embrace of our wholeness. If we become aware of this dynamic, life changes. We no longer curse the betrayals, the losses, or the conflicts, for we see them as necessary ingredients in the alchemy of the soul. We no longer cling to the idea that good fortune or bad luck dictates our relationships, but instead understand that each meeting is timed with precision, carrying the exact medicine we need at that moment. Awareness transforms experience. Reflection turns pain into wisdom. Thus, the law of resonance whispers to us through every interaction: you are not a victim of chance. You are a creator, a participant in a symphony too vast for the mind to grasp, but intimate enough for the heart to feel. Every person you meet has been called into your life by the silent music of your being. Nothing is accidental, everything is revelation. And as we awaken to this truth, we begin to walk through life not as strangers in a random world, but as conscious dancers in the eternal unfolding of the soul. Everything we encounter is a mirror of our inner world. Every smile, every betrayal, every moment of wonder or despair is a reflection cast from the unseen depths of our own being. Life does not happen to us, it happens through us. The people we meet, the situations we find ourselves in, and even the emotions we wrestle with are projections of a reality we are continuously creating, consciously or unconsciously. To understand this is to awaken from the illusion of separateness and step into a profound dance of self-discovery. When we gaze into the face of another, we are not simply seeing them, we are seeing ourselves. Their kindness echoes the tenderness we either nurture or long for within. Their cruelty awakens the wounds we have not yet dared to heal. The admiration we feel for another's strength, wisdom, or beauty is often a glimpse into the dormant potentials within us, calling out for recognition. Conversely, the irritation, jealousy, or fear we experience points us toward shadowed parts of ourselves that we have disowned. Every encounter, then, becomes a sacred invitation to deeper awareness. Most people move through life believing that external events are unrelated to their internal state. They blame circumstances, fate, or other people for their suffering and wait for the world to change. But the truth is revolutionary. The external world bends to the shape of the inner world. The chaos outside reflects the chaos inside. The love we find mirrors the love we cultivate within. When we begin to see life this way, we reclaim a power that was never truly lost, the power to change our world by changing ourselves. The mirror is not always flattering, and that is its gift. It shows us not only our beauty, but also our brokenness. It reveals our hidden anger through the aggression of others. It exposes our self-betrayal through the betrayals we suffer. Life brings us face to face with the lessons we need most, even when they come clothed in pain. If we are willing to look honestly into the mirror without judgment or denial, we can transmute suffering into wisdom and wounds into gateways of awakening. This is why no encounter is meaningless. The stranger who cuts you off in traffic, the friend who stands by you in darkness, the lover who leaves without explanation, each is a reflection, a fragment of your inner world projected outward so that you might see what you otherwise could not. The universe is not cruel. It is compassionate in its ruthless insistence that you know yourself. It will not allow you to hide forever behind illusions. It will call you to confront your fears, your desires, and your truths until you realize that the only way forward is inward. When we embrace the mirror, we transcend the trap of blame. We stop seeking villains and saviors outside ourselves. We understand that healing is not about changing others, but about transforming the inner terrain that draws them into our lives. Compassion for ourselves naturally extends to compassion for others, because we see that their struggles are reflections of our own. The world softens. Life becomes less a battlefield and more a classroom, or better yet, a sacred temple of continuous revelation. To live in this awareness is to live in freedom. We no longer need to control every circumstance because we trust that everything we encounter serves a purpose. We meet life with curiosity instead of fear, with openness instead of resistance. We ask not, "Why is this happening to me?" but "What in me is ready to be seen, healed, and transformed?" Everything we encounter is a mirror of our inner world. To accept this truth is to step into mastery. It is to become the conscious author of our experience, the courageous explorer of our inner depths, and the devoted student of life's endless wisdom. In every phase, in every moment, in every triumph and every trial, we find not strangers or accidents, but echoes of ourselves calling us home. Relationships are not random. They are the most precise and revealing mirrors life can offer. Every bond we form, every connection we nurture or lose is rooted in something far deeper than coincidence. It is easy to believe that love, friendship, or even rivalry happens by chance, but the truth runs beneath the surface. The people we are drawn to and those we resist carry the seeds of our own unconscious. They are summoned into our lives to awaken what lies dormant, to stir what we have forgotten, and to illuminate what we have yet to face. We do not meet others accidentally. The relationships that move us, whether through joy or through pain, serve a purpose that our conscious mind often does not see at first. They reveal to us the hidden corners of our own being. Through love, we glimpse our own capacity for trust, intimacy, and vulnerability. Through conflict, we encounter our suppressed anger, pride, or fear. Through admiration, we find aspects of ourselves we have yet to claim. Through betrayal, we uncover the ways we have betrayed our own truth. Every relationship acts as a bridge between the conscious and unconscious self, connecting what we know about ourselves with what we have yet to discover. The friends who lift us higher reflect the parts of our soul that yearn for light. The partners who wound us reveal the old wounds we have not yet healed. The mentors we revere mirror our hidden strengths, waiting for permission to rise. Even the enemies we resist embody the aspects of shadow we have disowned and projected outward. When we approach relationships with this awareness, life takes on an entirely different texture. No longer are we victims of circumstance or prisoners of fate. Instead, we become students of every encounter, asking not simply, "Why is this happening?" but "What part of myself is being called into the light?" In this way, even heartbreak becomes sacred. Even disappointment becomes purposeful. We begin to see that the people who trigger us the most are often the ones who offer us the greatest opportunities for growth. There's a quiet intelligence behind the patterns of our relationships. If we find ourselves repeatedly abandoned, it may point to an abandonment we first inflicted on our own heart. If we constantly attract criticism, it may reflect an inner critic we have yet to silence. If we are surrounded by love, it is often because we have finally chosen to love ourselves. Relationships are the living, breathing evidence of our inner world, projected outward, demanding our attention, our honesty, and our willingness to evolve. This does not mean that we should accept every behavior without boundaries or excuse harm under the banner of self-growth. Rather, it means we recognize that even painful relationships can teach us about where we are still wounded, where we still give our power away, and where we have yet to honor our deepest truth. Wisdom lies not in staying trapped in unhealthy dynamics, but in seeing the lesson they bring, integrating it, and moving forward with greater self-awareness. The most profound relationships will always touch our unconscious before they ever touch our conscious mind. That instant connection, that inexplicable tension, that sense of familiarity with a stranger, these are signs that something within us recognizes something within them. It is a silent conversation between souls that began long before the mind could comprehend. Relationships are not random. They are invitations to awaken, to heal, and to become whole. Every person who walks into your life has been called by the deepest part of you, the part that longs to be seen, understood, and ultimately transformed. In loving another, we learn to love ourselves. In forgiving another, we learn to forgive ourselves. And in this endless dance of meeting and parting, hurting and healing, we do not just discover others, we discover who we truly are. Every relationship is a mirror. We do not meet others by accident. We meet them to discover the hidden parts of ourselves, waiting to be healed, loved, and awakened. There is an unseen thread that weaves us to the people we meet, a quiet but powerful force that moves beyond logic, beyond circumstance. Resonance, the subtle harmony of energies, emotions, and soul frequencies, draws individuals into our lives at precisely the right moments. It is not random. It is not accidental. Every meeting, every connection, every collision of two lives happens because something within us is calling, and something within them is answering. Resonance is the language of the soul, speaking in currents far deeper than the mind can understand. When someone enters your life, they come bearing a purpose. Some come to ignite growth, to stretch the limits of who you thought you could become. They challenge your comfort zones, push against your fears, and refuse to let you settle for a small existence. These are the relationships that leave you breathless and trembling, not because they are easy, but because they demand your evolution. Growth is rarely comfortable, and those who awaken it within us often do so with a sacred fire, burning away the illusions so that the truth may emerge. Others come into our lives for healing. Their presence soothes the raw places within us that have long been aching. Sometimes they hold up a mirror to the wounds we have carried in silence, allowing us to finally weep and to mend. They do not heal us because we are broken, but because they see us as whole even when we cannot. Through their kindness, their patience, or simply their understanding, they remind us of the parts of ourselves we have long abandoned. Healing relationships are gifts, tender and fierce, teaching us that vulnerability is not weakness but profound strength. And then there are those who come to awaken us. They rattle the cages of our sleeping hearts. They shatter the illusions we have clung to. They arrive like storms, sudden and overwhelming, stripping away what is dead so that new life can begin. Awakening is often violent in its beauty. It does not always come wrapped in softness. Sometimes it comes wrapped in loss, betrayal, or sudden change. But even through the pain, there is clarity. These souls, these catalysts, are not here to comfort us. They are here to awaken us to our own divinity, to our own power, to the vast, untamed beauty that waits within. The resonance is the silent architect of these encounters. It arranges meetings across space and time, ensuring that the right souls find one another at the right moment. You may meet someone for only a brief flicker of time, yet their impact will echo within you for years. Or you may walk beside someone for a lifetime, each of you evolving in tandem, reflecting back to one another the unfolding of your inner journey. It is tempting to cling to those who bring growth, healing, or awakening, believing they are meant to stay forever. But the truth is, resonance does not promise permanence, it promises purpose. Some souls are not meant to walk the entire road with us. Their gift is in the moment, in the chapter they help to complete. To honor their role is to let them go when the time comes with gratitude rather than bitterness. When we trust in resonance, we no longer fear the arrivals or the departures. We understand that life, in its infinite wisdom, draws to us precisely who we need for our highest evolution. Growth, healing, awakening, these are not random blessings. They are orchestrated by the very heartbeat of the universe, responding to the silent prayers we sometimes do not even know we are praying. Resonance draws people into our lives for a purpose. Listen closely, look deeper. Every soul you meet carries a key to a door within yourself. And when you are ready, the right one will arrive, not to complete you, but to remind you that you were never incomplete to begin with. There are moments when life seems to breathe with us, when events align too perfectly to be dismissed as mere coincidence. A chance encounter leads to a life-changing opportunity. A book falls into your hands exactly when you need its wisdom. A dream whispers an answer that waking life soon confirms. These are not accidents, these are synchronicities, luminous cracks in the surface of ordinary reality, through which a deeper, more intelligent pattern reveals itself. Synchronicity is the universe's way of speaking in symbols and signs, bypassing the rigid logic of the mind to touch the heart directly. It reminds us that life is not random or chaotic. Beneath the apparent disorder, there is a profound order at work, weaving together events, relationships, and moments with an artistry beyond our comprehension. Synchronicity whispers that we are not isolated fragments, but integral notes in a cosmic symphony, intimately connected to the whole. When synchronicities appear, they often come in moments of transition, turmoil, or decision. They come when we are poised on the edge of growth, or when we are ready to see a truth we had long avoided. They are invitations, not demands. They do not force us to change course, but they offer a shimmering glimpse of a path aligned with our soul's deeper calling. To ignore them is to walk blindfolded past a door swinging open. Most people dismiss synchronicities because they do not fit the logic of the rational mind. But the mind alone was never meant to chart the course of a life. The soul speaks a different language, a language of symbols, dreams, intuition, and synchronicity. When we tune into this language, life becomes less of a mechanical grind and more of a living dialogue between the seen and the unseen. We begin to walk not by sight alone, but by a deeper knowing that transcends appearances. The synchronicities reveal that what we call coincidence is often the visible tip of an invisible web of connections. Every thought, every emotion, every longing we carry sends ripples into the world beyond our conscious awareness, and the world in turn responds. It arranges meetings, circumstances, and opportunities in ways that seem uncanny, but are in truth deeply natural. It is we who have forgotten how to listen. There is a sacred humility required to honor synchronicity. It asks us to admit that we are not in control of everything, that there are greater forces guiding our journey. It invites us to trust life's intelligence, even when we do not understand its logic. It calls us to become co-creators rather than mere reactors, to walk with a sense of wonder rather than skepticism. When you begin to recognize synchronicity, you awaken to the realization that your life is not a random sequence of events, but a meaningful unfolding. You are being led, nudged, whispered to, shown signs. Not every coincidence is a synchronicity. But when your heart stirs, when a sense of awe or deep familiarity touches you, you can be sure you are standing in the presence of a greater pattern. Deeper patterns are always at work beneath the surface of reality. Life is never as fragmented or chaotic as it seems. When you dare to trust the unseen threads, you move from a life of chance to a life of meaning. You become a participant in the sacred dance of existence, recognizing that every moment, every meeting, every apparent accident is charged with significance. Synchronicity is not magic. It is not superstition. It is the natural flowering of a life lived in alignment with the soul's purpose. To follow it is to walk the path of wonder, to trust that you are exactly where you need to be, guided by a wisdom that never sleeps and loved by a universe far more intricate and alive than you ever dared to believe. Self-awareness is the quiet revolution that changes everything. It is the turning inward that allows us to meet the outer world with new eyes. Without self-awareness, we move through life, reacting blindly, caught in old patterns, projecting our wounds onto others, mistaking our inner turbulence for external threats. But when awareness awakens within us, the entire landscape of our relationships shifts. We no longer see people merely as they appear. We see them through the clear lens of understanding, compassion, and truth. The people we encounter are reflections, each carrying a piece of a larger mirror meant to show us who we are, where we are wounded, where we are growing. Without self-awareness, we take these reflections personally. We defend, we blame, we attack, believing that others are the cause of our suffering or the source of our happiness. We live in reaction, prisoners of unseen emotional currents. But with self-awareness, a new space opens up inside us, a space between the event and our response. In that space, we find choice. We no longer react out of fear or habit. We respond with intention, with clarity, with wisdom. We recognize when someone triggers an old wound, and instead of lashing out, we look inward and ask, what is this showing me about myself? We recognize when admiration arises, and instead of placing others on pedestals, we understand that what we see in them lives within us as well. Self-awareness transforms judgment into curiosity. It turns defensiveness into understanding. It allows us to see others not as enemies or saviors, but as fellow travelers on the same messy, beautiful journey of becoming. We begin to notice how much of our perception is colored by our own fears, hopes, and past experiences. And as we own these projections, we take back our power. We stop giving others the keys to our peace of mind. When we meet someone with self-awareness, we are no longer simply reacting to their words, their moods, or their actions. We are attuned to the deeper story, theirs and ours. We listen with more than our ears. We sense the emotions behind the words. We see the wounded child behind the anger, the longing behind the arrogance, the fear behind the withdrawal. And perhaps most importantly, we see our own reflection in them. This shift does not make us passive. On the contrary, it sharpens our intuition. It empowers us to set boundaries without hatred, to walk away from harm without bitterness, to choose our relationships not out of need, but out of resonance and mutual respect. We meet people where they are, and we meet ourselves where we are. Relationships become less about fixing and more about growing, less about clinging and more about flowing. Each interaction, whether fleeting or enduring, becomes a chance to deepen our understanding of ourselves and to offer others the gift of being seen without distortion. When we cultivate self-awareness, we stop being victims of circumstance. We become conscious participants in the unfolding of our lives. We realize that no meeting is truly random, and every person we encounter holds the potential to reveal another piece of our inner world. Through this lens, even difficult encounters lose their sting. They become teachers, offering lessons wrapped in the fabric of daily life. Self-awareness transforms everything, but most of all, it transforms the way we love. For to see others clearly, we must first be willing to see ourselves. And in that clear seeing, compassion is born, not the kind of compassion that excuses harm, but the kind that understands the human condition. Fragile, flawed, and yet endlessly beautiful in its striving toward the light. In the end, self-awareness is not merely a tool for better relationships. It is the very ground upon which true connection is built, connection that honors both self and other and, in doing so, honors life itself.